Hi guys, welcome to week 2 of the lockdown workouts at the Nest for you guys, their members. So today's session is a progression on what we did last week. So I'm hoping most of you got through that first one. If you haven't and you're just logging on for this week 2, go back, get the first week done and get it under your belt, because this will link on quite nicely onto what you've already got done. So same format as last week. We'll have a warm-up, about 10-15 minutes, nice and gentle, all good movements that are going to prep you for everyday life, not just this workout. Main part of the session, we'll do a bit of a push-pull sort of variation, and I'll put a twist on it, and then just to finish off, again, bit of isometric holds today, just things to kind of ramp up the intensity just a little bit at the end. Hopefully all things that you will enjoy. So yeah, let's get it going. So the warm-up for today, we're just going to start with a little bit of a pulse raiser. So we go through 20 star jumps, and then I'll take you to some floor and ground work just to get you prepped for the workout. So let's just get through 20 star jumps. Just taking your hands overhead, jumping in and out, keeping it nice and tidy. Try not to let your heart rate ramp up too much to start with. "20 star jumps to start, and we'll take it down to the ground into a movement I call scorpion rotations. So you start face down in a sort of iron cross position or crucifix position, whatever you want to call it. So if I take my right hand in towards me, I'll take my right foot over and around towards my left hand. Feel a nice big stretch through your chest, maybe bicep, shoulder and hip. Great all-round stretch if you spend a lot of time sat at a desk. Keep it dynamic, so keep moving from left to right. Don't hold your breath and don't force the movement. 5 on each side, 10 in total. Lovely, so scorpion rotation's done. And then we move into a movement called YWTs. Again, you stay face down. We'll start with arms in this sort of Y-shaped position. Fists are on the ground to start with, thumbs up. We do 10 raises in this Y position. As soon as you've done 10, we do 10 hovers in this sort of W shape. So you keep your fists off the ground for the whole 10 reps there. And as soon as you've done 10 there, take your hands to the side, and then 10 T-shaped raises. Y, W, T. Yeah, 10 of each. So let's just take you through one of them. Just for this video, I'll keep my head off the ground because I don't want to muffle on the mic. So you're here, 10 raises. Nine, 10. As soon as you've done 10 Y raises, going straight into your W's, squeezing your back gently, opening up, squeezing, open up, elbows down towards your hips. That's 10. And then the T shape, face down, thumbs up, perfect T, kiss the ground, come back up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, perfect. And then we move into a hip movement, hip warm up. Just doing some rotation work from a 90-90 position. So if you've never done a 90-90 stretch before, so we'll take your left leg to start. you want to put your leg in a 90-degree position out straight in front of you. So your knee should be pointing straight ahead, and keep your ankles stacked right under the knee. So perfect L shape, perfect 90 degrees. The other leg, take out to the side. Again, keeping your knee in line with your hip, and then ankle right under the knee. So you end up in this sort of perfect 90-90 position. So you're facing straight on in terms of where your front leg is. If you need your hands for support, then use it. It can be quite intense for some of you. I'm not expecting you to kind of crank on the hip and really suffer and end up cramping. Use your hand for support if you need it. And if you've never done this before, start with a bit of support. So if your hand's on the ground, from here what I'm trying to do is externally rotate through my right side. So I'm going to externally rotate my hip as much as I can, then start to open up through my chest. Rotate over to the opposite side. Pause for a second. Yeah, feel a big stretch through my hip. Make sure I'm in a perfect 90-90 again. Adjust if you need to. And then start to rotate. Big rotations. Notice how slow and controlled I'm trying to do this movement, because I'm trying to draw the biggest circles possible through my hip. Yeah, so don't be lazy about it. Think about what you're trying to do and focus on getting the most out of this stretch. At the start and end of the movement, you can hinge slightly through your hip. So think of pulling your tailbone back behind you, keeping your chest up, giving yourself a slight arch in your lower back, and that will increase the stretch through your glutes. You'll really feel that deep in the glute, and then from there, rotating over and repeat on the other side. Arch a little bit, lengthen through your tailbone, feel that massive stretch. Come out and keep rotating. We're going to do 5 rotations on each side. Slight lean, come back, external rotation, internal rotation. Just really sending lots of blood into the hip capsule, trying to open up. This is great for people who spend a lot of time at the desk or driving, so everyone nowadays. And just keep it dynamic, don't hold for too long. Perfect. So you want 5 on each side, 10 in total. Next movement is a plank variation. So I'm not going to hold you there for too long. We're either going to do 10 breaths in a plank. Practice a technique that in my world we call power breathing. So you're going to try and take a short inhale through the nose and a short, sharp exhale through the mouth. Every time you exhale, there's this contraction of the abs, and you'll see what I mean when I'm in the plank position. So hold for 10 seconds or 10 breaths. So set yourself up in a plank. You want to have a nice stacked position in terms of the elbow right under your shoulder. Nice right angle. Yeah, make everything nice and neat, make it look good. And then from there, I will be gently dragging my elbows down towards my pockets, and that will help me contract through my midsection a bit more. Keeping your tailbone slightly tucked under, pelvis tucked under a little bit. So nice straight line. Elbow right under the hip, elbow right under your shoulder. Take a short, sharp inhale and 10 breaths. Perfect. Last movement is a hip bridge. Again, taking the same principles of that power breath into your hip bridge. So you're starting with your feet flat on the ground, lying back. You can keep your hands either side of you for some support. You're going to keep your upper back firmly pushed into the ground. At this point, you're going to drive your feet into the ground and try and bring your hip up and contract your glutes. So extending through the hip. Ten reps. Perfect. So that was one round of the warm-up. Ideally, I'd like you to do 3 rounds. If you're short on time and you're trying to get through this workout, 2 rounds should be sufficient. Good work. Okay, so on to the main part of today's session, bit of strength work. Again, for me, the focus for this 4 weeks is all going to be towards quality, not quantity. So scale your reps according to how you're moving and how difficult the movement feels. I want you to practice good, solid, quality movement and build strong foundations. So progressing on from last week, we started off with a push-up, and that's what we're going to start off with today. But we're just going to kind of crank on that intensity just a little bit in terms of increasing the tension of the movement through tempo work. So what I mean by that is, in plain English, is you're going to be controlling yourself down for 2 seconds. You can have a 1 second pause at the bottom of your push-up and then pushing up and locking out at the top. So same variations as last week. If you scaled your push-up last week, I want you to stay there. So what I mean by that is, if you weren't in a full push-up position and weren't starting here, you should have been starting here with your knees down. Yeah, so nothing really changes in terms of range of motion, but we're just dropping your knees to take out some of the weight involved. So from here, in terms of this week's tempo, what I'd like to see is 1, 2, 1 second pause, driving out the hole. So 1, 2, 1 second pause, driving out. 1, 2, 1 second pause, driving out. Yeah. If you were doing a full push-up, same applies, nothing different. Knees are off the ground, controlling all the way down. 1, 2, 1 second pause, driving out the hole. 1, 2, 1 second pause, driving out the hole. Every rep should look as good as the last. Try and stay away from those grinding reps. Always leave 1 or 2 reps in the tank, especially when we're trying to build and get stronger, trying to practice good practice. So we'll get through the push-ups, 4 sets of between 4 and 8 reps, depending on the difficulty level. Stick to the tempo, that will be the game changer. Second movement, split squat, single leg split squats. Same sort of rep ranges, 4 rounds again, 6 to 12 reps. So the split squat, you set yourself up in this sort of lunge position. The difference between the lunge and the split squat is, what I'm going to be doing with the split squat is getting my hips to kind of shift forwards, not straight down. So in a regular lunge where you would go straight down, the split squat, you're trying to shift your weight forwards onto that front foot and close the gap between your hamstring and your calf. Yeah, your whole foot should stay on the ground. If you feel your heel popping off the ground, you need to adjust your stride length. So again, with the tempo, same as the push-up, it will be 1, 2, 1 second pause, driving out the hole. 1, 2, 1 second pause, driving out. Trying to lock out, squeezing the quad, not driving the knee back aggressively. Just try and think of contracting the quad, and then you go 1, 2, pushing into the ground as hard as you can, locking out, squeezing the quad. Repeat on both sides. So 4 sets between 6 and 12 reps is good, but stick to that tempo. 2 seconds down, 1 second pause. Perfect. And then the third movement we're going to use to split up the upper lower body is a side plank rotation. So, few options here. If the side plank itself is super difficult for you to hold, then you're going to stay there for today. So variations of your side plank. If you've never done one before, start on your knees, elbow stays under your shoulder, slightly out in front of it. Keep yourself in a nice straight line and take your hip up off the ground and try and hold that position. Yeah, you're trying to hold a nice strong position and feel your obliques working. That's where you're going to start for today. If that's too easy, take your feet out. Top leg goes out in front just to help you stabilize, and you hold there. Again, if you're comfortable with that and you feel like you can hold that for good 20-30 seconds, no problem, then we'll go into some side plank rotation. So set yourself up to the side plank, you rotate, try and touch the ground beneath you and open up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Yeah, so you want to repeat that on both sides. Same number of rounds, 4 rounds of anything between 6 and 12 reps, depending on where you are today. Okay guys, so for the finisher, you've got 3 movements. Again, 4 rounds to get through. If you don't have time for 4, try and get 3 in. And it's for quality, not for time. So don't try and rush through all the movements. The first movement is a wall sit. So for this one, you want to set yourself up with your legs in a 90-degree position. Or if anything, you want your heels slightly out in front of your knees so you can push against the wall and really feel your legs active through the whole movement. So sit your hip about 90 degrees. Make sure you 3 points of contact, back of your head, lower back, upper back. Pushing into the wall gently, driving your feet into the ground. Should feel your legs, hamstrings, quads really light up. You're going to hold there for at least 30 seconds. That's the first movement. Second movement is a bear plank to start. So this is the scaled version that I want you to do today. So start in a bear plank position. So what that is you're in all fours. Hands under the shoulders, maybe slightly out in front, but you don't want to be chasing your hands. And then tuck your toes under, back in a nice neutral position so you're not overly arching, not rounding, in your natural position of your spine. And at that point, you're just going to take your knees off the ground like ½ an inch. There's your bear plank. And if you can hold there for 30 seconds and that's not a problem, then we've got a bear plank march. So you take right hand and left foot off, right foot, left hand, and you just keep marching, keep alternating for 30 seconds. And that will get a bit spicy. Last movement, again, 2 options. First one, good old-fashioned prison squat, hands behind the head. Set your feet in a position that enables you to sit into your squat. Remember, when you squat, you initiate through the hips, so you don't want to drop your knees first. You sit your hip back, and you keep sitting your hip back. As soon as you hit depth, driving up. So if you feel that that's where you are today, that's fine. I want to see 10 prison squats. If you want to progress it a little bit, ramp up the intensity, prison squat jumps. So just going to take off a little bit, try and sit back into your squat when you land. 10 squat jumps. Hope you enjoyed the session, guys. Have a good one, and I'll see you for week 3 next week. Thank you.